I remember when I finally came out about the trafficking to a classmate of mine who I've now known for 50 years. And I told him, and he outright said, that just didn't happen. And I said, yes, it did. And he started to kind of get all choked up. And he said, but I was there. You were on the periphery and you didn't see it. You didn't see it because they were careful. I was engaged to be careful, otherwise, worse things would happen.
Buckle up for a new episode of the S.H.E podcast, the show where we have real and raw conversations to inspire and empower you to be seen and heard so you can create balance and everything you want in your life and business. I'm your host, S.H.E, and I'm excited to walk alongside of you on this journey of being seen, heard, and empowered. Welcome to the S.H.E podcast. Be seen, be heard, be empowered. I'm your host, S.H.E, co-founder of HLH Growth Solutions, and I'm excited to have you here today and excited to dive in with my special guest. I am excited today because I've had the privilege and honor of speaking with her on our other podcast, Business Growth Spotlight. So make sure you check her out there as well. And she said yes to being here with us on the S.H.E podcast. It's double our fun, double our pleasure with Dr. S.H.E Breslin. So welcome, Dr. S.H.E, to the S.H.E show.
Thank you so much. So great to be with you again.
I am excited to dive in. We had such a fantastic conversation, for me anyway, on the last podcast. So I'm really excited to learn more about you now with your journey and your story. But so what I'm going to do first is give everybody a little information about you, and then we'll dive in. Sound good?
That sounds wonderful.
Okay. So Dr. Breslin is a breakthrough and transformational coach, a trauma psychologist, a motivational speaker, a screenwriter. Ooh, and a best-selling author. I didn't know she was a screenwriter. Her first book, Lovers and Survivors, as well as her work with Chicken Soup for the Soul, have generated worldwide acclaim. Her second and third books, The Secret to Conception and The Secret to Conception Workbook, have enabled hundreds to resolve fertility challenges. Her fourth book, Daily Pearls, 365 Days of Sage Wisdom, blends Dr. Breslin's musings with motivational quotes from a wide array of contributors and delivers an unforgettable and moving read. So as you can hear, as you can tell, and this is only a snippet of her bio and her accolades, she's pretty amazing. So we're in for a real treat today with Dr. S.H. So can you share with us, with everything you're doing with supporting your clients, with women moving through trauma as a breakthrough and transformational coach and psychologist, is this a journey that you move through and now you're like, I want to support women in this area? Or is this something where you just knew that you wanted to get certified in, get your degree, go to school, learn the tools of the trade, and then support women in this way? Or was it a combo of both?
Yeah, all of the above. I can tell you this, my life was not perfect growing up. In fact, I experienced quite a lot of trauma. And because I was from a very sort of stoic European family, I would bet you that most people had no idea what was going on, including my parents and grandparents. I mean, I think they maybe had inklings from here or there, but I would say I kept everything secret. And I certainly think that if I had not come across certain people in my life who did intuitively know there's something here, we've got to support and hold space for her. I think if I hadn't met those people, I'd be dead for sure, for sure. When I was 11, I saw a film with Jane Alexander called A Circle of Children. And when I saw the movie, it was about a social worker who worked with autistic children and sort of unlocked the key to communicating with a very nonverbal autistic child.
Okay.
I thought, that's it. That is the job for me. And I thought, with my conscious mind, yes, I'll go to school, I'll get my degree, I will do this thing, I will work with these children. And when I was 19, I think it was 19 or 20. I was working in a group home as part of an internship with severely autistic children, nonverbal autistic children. And I got the snot beat out of me. One of the kids just kind of flipped out and jumped on me and beat me ragged, black, blue blood everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
And luckily, the cook from upstairs came down, hauled him off me, and he was about 6 feet, this 14-year-old. And I
Wow.
was, 5'5",
Right.
and got him off me, said, do you want to go to the hospital? And I said, I just want to go home. I have no recollection of getting home. And when I got home, I think I sort of passed out or was in shock in the kitchen. I was sitting on the kitchen floor. My roommate came home and found me, poor dear. And she started screaming and I kind of alerted and she's like, "Oh my God, who did this to you?" And I told her this story. She sat down with me and she's like, "Okay, I'm going to clean you up." But at that point in time, I did go back to work to finish my internship there. I have no recollection of that, by the way. That's what trauma does.
Yeah.
At that point in time, it was crystal clear to me that's not the job for me.
Right.
That's not my secret sauce. And what I realized later on in time was that the movie, it wasn't the job she was doing. It was unlocking the secret. It was finding the way to communicate and to, find what was below the surface. And that's probably what drove me forward because slowly but surely, as I got my degree and I moved into my first jobs, I realized that given what had happened to me, I was just sort of made for working with other people who had experienced trauma.
Mm.
And it took a lot of work. I've probably done more therapy hours than, your average therapist because I had a lot to work through. And when I finally started working, I worked very much sort of in the trenches. I helped women get out of their house in the middle of the night. I packed boxes so people could leave abusive spouses.
Wow.
And I really loved it and was very committed. And eventually, my body sort of gave out on me, and I developed bone marrow cancer. And I finally had that sort of ultimate come to Jesus meeting where I had to look at what I was still supporting in my own life. It wasn't just the hefty lifting of trauma psychology. It was that I myself had entered repeatedly relationships with what I call soul suckers, people who just fed off me and gaslit me and emotionally and physically abused me. And eventually I realized, I'm gonna die to this if I don't get out once and for all, if I don't ditch the narcissist magnet. And during the course of my cancer journey, I had an incredible sort of meditative download and I uncovered something that I'd never done before with my own clients. And I felt this and heard this in the silence encouragement to do the work on myself. And
Mm.
when I saw the impact it had on me, I started practicing it with clients. And eventually I couldn't work in any other piece of the field. And I totally redirected my life and my career to working with professional women who had been previously very high functioning, high achieving, but had been derailed by narcissists and other soul suckers. And that's what I do now. And I couldn't be happier with that work.
Well, your passion just radiates through you. You glow at both times I've seen you. I come on, I'm like, oh, she's glowing. And you can see how passionate you are. And so I really appreciate that the journey and you walking us through in how what you've gone through and how you've navigated it. One piece I want to pull out, there's so many, but one piece that you really stood out to me is how you continuously worked on and through the trauma. So, because I think a lot of people, and I'll speak for me and some people that I've spoke with who have gone through trauma or are doing anything in their life, right? Because just for example, let me just bring it into a business aspect of it. So, how we support people with their business is are moving through challenges that we had or I had in my business. The reason this podcast exists is due to my fear of being seen and heard that stemmed from when I was a child. And I still get to move through that fear. I still have the fear of going live. There's times I'll go live and then I disappear for a while. And you had said that, you had received your own, you've gone to therapy. Now you've taken things that you've done for yourself that you use those tools that worked for you with other people. I think it's key that people know, or especially women, that just because you've taken steps to move through it doesn't mean we're not on this constant journey of moving through it. Because I think for a lot of women, there's shame when it's like, well, why aren't I fixed? Why does that still come up for me? Why am I still feeling tied to that? I thought a number of times I've moved past things that happened in my childhood and I still come back to it now and go, why is this still coming up for me? And it can be frustrating, right? And
Oh,
just
yeah.
like in business, my fear, I teach women, I share with businesses how to strategically be visible, but it doesn't mean I'm not constantly working through it myself, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
So,
remember, I remember it well. I mean, and, for me, it wasn't just, childhood sexual abuse. I was eventually groomed and trafficked by a cartel. And so the notion of being visible to me meant being harmed.
right,
And when people think visible, it's not just podcasting, right? Or public
right,
speaking.
right.
It's showing up. It's being in the limelight. So I think especially if you have a gift that you want to offer, like ideas or holding space or being a therapist, anything where you're engaging and you're utilizing your gifts to uplift other people,
Mhm.
even the glow, right? Old soul women, when they're in their point of passion and they are, tuned up and ready to go, they glow, right? At least to people who can see them.
Mhm.
And it is as visible as it gets. And it can absolutely feel like having a target on your head. And I know that in a huge body of work that I did, working with other women in a sistership circle, that is probably the big thing that came up for me. I was still under earning. I was overworking, but I was under earning.
Mhm.
And a big portion of that was not being willing to stand sort of in my power, my sovereignty, because it was fearsome to me. And I remember when I finally did a big piece of that journey and I was out 100%. And I just remember feeling I was probably shaking through the whole thing. And it was the first time I really told all of my story, on camera. I think I didn't sleep that night.
I was going to say,
It's
did you feel
horrifying.
like you wanted to throw up after? Because
Yes,
be really
and may have, what I mean?
yeah, the different people have different feelings, but it can be real
Yes.
when you have that fear and you're like, oh my God, I just put it out there. What
Yeah,
are people going
yeah,
to think? What's
right,
there's a lot of different, you don't sleep, you can feel like you
right,
want to
right.
vomit, you could be shaking. There's a lot of different things that come up. Yeah.
And some people they internalize it in imposter syndrome. Like, well, how can I possibly be this? Like, how can I be special? Or depends on how much gaslighting and emotional abuse you've endured, because that will definitely be a part of that if you had any of that. So I know that for me, working through that, and I continue to work through that every time I come on and I talk about the things that have happened to me. Again, we started out with I was from a Stoic European family. I remember when I finally came out about the trafficking to a classmate of mine who I've now known for 50 years. And I told him, and he outright said, that just didn't happen. And I said, and he's a very lovely person.
Mm.
We're really good friends. And I said, yes, it did. And he started to kind of get all choked up, and he said, but I was there. Like I would have seen that. And I said, you were on the periphery and you didn't see it. You didn't see it because they were careful. I was engaged to be careful, otherwise, worse things would happen.
Right.
And it took a long, I mean, this was a long conversation. It took him quite a while to get back together. And he just said, I'm so sorry that happened. I'm finding it a hard time to like be in my body and know that this was happening when I was there. And I said, yeah. And he said, do you think anyone noticed? And I said, I think the one or two people who might have noticed were so outside themselves at the time that I think that if they heard the story, they'd fight it then too. I think they'd fight with the same thing you're fighting with, which is that this was my reality. And I am resilient. I did make it through, but it's real. And it's a struggle for people. It's not just when you are on the other side and you're like, okay, well, this happened to me. I don't want to have nightmares anymore. I want to be visible. I want to be seen. I want to be able to share because this isn't a one-off. This is happening all over the place. And I think in the last 10 years, we've gotten a lot more visibility on that this is happening. But it happens in places like Pasadena and San Marino and San Francisco, wealthy places. It's happening there too. It's not just happening to the runaways on the street, it's happening all over. And I think that part of what I want to do by sharing my story is just to say, I see you, I hear you, we can do this, we can move through this. And I have those conversations with incredibly high achieving, wonderful, well put together women who on the inside feel like they're dying, who on the inside still feel like imposters, who on the inside would rather just run and never be seen again. You're right. I mean, it's a challenge every day to simply show up and work through, whatever baggage is left behind, even if it's just work in progress. I mean, we're probably all that until we leave the planet.
Mm.
Every day is an opportunity to continue to work through whatever is left.
Yeah. And I like that you mentioned when you were going through this, it wasn't well, nobody talked about it, right? Nobody talked about it. They weren't going through, and now it's more well known. I hate to say it like that, but it's
Yeah.
more well known, especially recently with the Epstein victims coming forward. And we're seeing, yes, it's happening in the wealthy communities, which is appalling. It's appalling to happen in any
Right.
community. But to know that it's happening in these areas and these powerful people and these girls were so scared because of the power behind it, right? You had shared, had people known, had you let somebody know, the repercussions would be worse to you than what you've already been going through.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like I got to go with what I feel safest with, and that's a horrible word to say with along with that. But what you were like, okay, well, I'm gonna, it's going to be worse if anybody actually, if I tell someone or I actually let them in on or give them a hint of what's happening.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine your friend who loves you knowing that that happened and he had no idea this was
Yeah.
going on, the pain that he felt. And, I don't know the other emotions that he went through, the guilt, whatever it was, but that's got to be hard for people around you when they do find out that, how did I not know this? Because I know if some of my other children came to me and I said, so I would be like, what? How did I not know, knowing that when I had you, my goal and my number one thing was to protect you and keep you safe,
Yeah.
that I didn't know this was happening under my own nose, right? And you also shared that you brought up moving, you were in a narcissistic relationship too. And I've been through a couple of those. And we talked right before we went live before we hit record. And I was like, I still look back and go, was I really? Was it really? He's a good person, deep down, good person. And you were like, yeah. So even though we've moved through it and we'll never go back to that person again, like we know that's not healthy, why are we still living in that loop sometimes? Like I said to you, like we can go through the trauma and we're always, but it feels like we feel like we want to just be done with it. I have clients that have gone through so much trauma and just like I just feel like I've been doing this for 10 years, 15 years trying to move through it and I've made a lot of progress and I'm still in it.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much there to unpack, but I'll go
Yeah.
directly to the question first, which is, why are we still, why isn't work done? Right? Ah, I mean, number one, it depends on the level of trauma or the level of exposure, is what I'll say. So, if it's something that happened many, many times, or if it happened and had incredible intensity, I think those things are just simply going to require more time, more energy, more effort, right? When we're talking about narcissistic relationships, two ways it can go, right? They begin their love bombing, they come in, you feel like you have met your soulmate. It feels like the best thing since sliced bread, right? And you fall for it. I mean, this is real, this is natural, right? You fall for it. Unfortunately, as soon as you're hooked, that gloves are off, right? There's no more mask. They just simply are who they are. They begin the gaslighting, the emotional abuse, whatever they feel like doing to demean and subordinate you so you remain compliant. Now, some women will see that and be like, get the heck out of my house. Like, you get out of my life because they're maybe grounded enough to realize this has just, I was duped, not going to be duped anymore. You're out. Sometimes it's just because maybe they've been through it before. Maybe it's just that they're way more grounded. Maybe it's not just that they're not old soul women. They don't feel this incredible mission to uplift, serve, and heal others. I don't know. There are women who are able to see it and exit, and that is that. Then there are the rest of us. And many of us will grapple for a long time because we feel like I feel like I should leave, but then he's going to have to find a new place to live or whatever the story that goes on, and it takes longer. Some of us are so demeaned and traumatized that we develop Stockholm syndrome, which is really just a coping strategy, a psychological coping strategy, where we have to really embrace their reality in order to survive. And once we embrace their reality, it is, we say the sky is blue. They say, no, it's not, it's green. And we have to look at it. And the next thing that comes out of our mouths is, wow, what a lovely shade of green that is. Because if you were to say, no, it's not, God help you, right? You have no idea what they will sink to. Some of them will be physically violent, some emotionally, some will begin berating and gaslighting to demand compliance, even if just verbally. So we learn, in long-term relationships to let go of our own truth, to let go of our own reality, to embrace theirs, and simply to adapt to all of that.
Mm.
And that's great if you have to be in that space. It's not great if you are able to get out because then you have to deal with that. You have to unlearn everything. You have to discover your reality, which is often, in the vault with your soul, so they can't get to that. And it is a process of unpacking and processing and moving forward until you can finally take your soul, put her back in the driver's seat, reactivate and embrace who you're set on the planet as.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, most traditional therapy will not do any of that. They might do the process part, which is great. That's what I used to do.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
the
So
rest is, a personal gift that I, downloaded while in my cancer journey and is how I manage that now.
yeah, I have a client who talks about the unwanted gifts. And it's because he was given, 6 months to live 3 times. And now he looks back and he's still here. He's in his 70s now. This was
Wow.
30 years ago, 40 years ago, whenever it was, 20, and he's like, I'm still here. And he talks about these unwanted gifts. And when you share your cancer journey, that's what what you're doing now and how you've pivoted your business. I hate to say it as a gift, but it's like for me, I thought of him because I'm like, oh my gosh, like we have these unwanted gifts. We can sit in, why is this happening to me? Why did this happen to me? And there's ways that we can turn adversity into triumph, adversity into healing, adversity into supporting others so that they don't either have to go through the same thing, or if they are, they can navigate it much smoother with ease, grace, and flow because we've gone through that part for them, or we've learned how to navigate that. So I want to just say, take that moment to acknowledge that and to acknowledge you, and also say thank you for taking the unwanted gift that you were given, if you allow me to call it that, and being able to support women in what they're going through, especially in the narcissistic space. It holds a deep place in my heart because I know I've been through it. I still look back, like I told you, and go, why? How did I get stuck in here? Not once, but twice with the same person. And what, and one thing I want to share is, I want to ask you, what are the signs of someone so a woman who, and there's men too that are in there's
Oh
women
yeah.
who are narcissists too. So
Yeah.
women or men, what are the signs that you are in, or you are with a narcissistic person, whether it's in your business, because it could be business related,
Oh yeah.
or in your personal life. With with this podcast, we talk into both. So that's my question. The one thing that when I look back on, I'm like, I didn't trust myself. I saw the lies. I found it. I did the digging. I found the lies, and I still chose to believe that I was wrong about finding the proof of the lies and that he was telling the truth, and was afraid to confront him or bring the truth that I found. So I
Yeah.
knew
And
that's
I would
one
say
sign. Yeah.
that's the evidence of being in long-term relationship with a soul sucker. I mean, that you are still not trusting yourself.
It's embarrassing to say that, but I know that other women are there, and I want to say it
Yeah.
out loud so
Yeah.
you're not alone. You're
Yeah.
not the only person that's doing this and going, I see it. I know it's here, but I still believe what he's telling me. And it's like crazy that we're fighting this battle in our mind.
Yeah. And embarrassment is overrated. Let me just say that. Embarrassment and guilt, both overrated. I think, what we have to know is in the beginning, it is difficult to discern between somebody who truly loves you and somebody who's trying to work you, manipulate you. Because narcissists do not, and when I say narcissists, the body of soul suckers, narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, and low functioning borderline personality disorder, they all have a lot of the same qualities. There are things that, help you discern which is which, but they all do not have their own sense of power, right? They have to feed on other people to validate themselves, to get things done, to regulate their emotions. That's something they all have in common. So, when you look at in the beginning that they're going to manipulate better than you are ad infinitum. You will never, unless you're a narcissist, I guess, you will never be as good at manipulating as they are. So that's where embarrassment or shame, we got to chuck that out the window. They're experts at this. You can be an expert at something else, but you're never going to be an expert at manipulation like a soul sucker
Yeah.
because their lives depend on it. So I think in the beginning, it might be difficult to tell, am I with somebody like this or not? Is it true love or is this a manipulation? I would say for those of us who are more intuitive and really live in that space, we can feel the need. It feels like a gaping hole.
Mm-hmm.
And we can evidence it by our urge to fill the need. Like help it, fix it, fill the need. And we'll feel it without any stopping. Like we just feel like we could never quite do enough to fill that need. That's a telltale red flag, right? So if you're intuitive enough to feel it in your soul that you must keep on fixing, filling, okay, that's the time to stop, take a step back, ground yourself, Go with somebody who, a friend, a colleague, anybody who can help you sort of clear out things, ground things, and then look at it from a very sort of technical level. What do I see? What is the evidence? What would it be like if I stepped away? If somebody's truly in love with you, you can step away and say, I need some time, and they will embrace that with love and just say, okay, of course. I don't want to jump in anything. Soul suckers don't do that. They'll plead with you. They'll tell you, I can't live without you, and drama, 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 right? So that you feel compelled, again, to fix it, to feed it. So that's one of those telltale red flags. I think once we get hooked, that's where things become really difficult. And I would say it's if you know yourself well enough, when you notice that you are not taking care of yourself, when you notice that the relationship is more one-sided, you're doing all the time, and you may feel like you're doing everything with love, but you're doing all the time. Okay, that's not healthy or normal. And whether the person's a narcissist doesn't really matter. That's not a healthy relationship, right? That's something to really evaluate. If you notice that that person, male or female, has alienated you from your friends or family, that's another red flag. And again, here's the caveat, right? If your friends and family are mean and terrible and toxic, then you got to evaluate that, right? But if you have at least one healthy friend and that's the first person they get rid of, with some story about how this person doesn't have your self-interest, at heart or whatever, right? That's a red flag, huge red flag. It means your support for being who you are is going out the door so that you can be more easily manipulated. If you notice that many of your conversations turn into how it's your fault, you're the problem, you're crazy, you're not seeing things correctly, that's another red flag going up in the air because probably if you were that kind of person, like just a dorky weenie, I mean, if you were that, you would probably not be in a relationship, right? That would
Right.
have been evident to them and they would have moved on if they were healthy people.
Right.
So when it's coming up all the time, that's a red flag because they're doing that to manipulate you, to subordinate you. So in those times where you begin to notice these things, you see the red flags, then the most important thing you can do is step into space with someone else, a therapist, an advocate, a friend who's been through it, a group of women who know exactly what you're talking about and have lived through it and resiliently, become whole again because you can't fix this alone. You cannot do this process alone.
Mm.
Once you've really set your own truth aside, you need people to insert it back in and say, do you remember when we were in college and blah, blah, blah. We were the girls that took the world by storm. And to remind you, like, you are not this placating, little, shy, fearful soul. Like that's not who you are.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can feel really scary to reach out to a friend or a family member and say, you know what, I think I'm really in a bad space. That is why I can say, as a therapist, gosh, even if somebody doesn't work with me formally and all they want to do is reach out and have a conversation just to validate that what they're experiencing is not normal, I'll sign up for that conversation every day of the week. Well, maybe not Saturday and Sunday, but sometimes, because it's what we need to finally feel enough distance to look carefully and say, I didn't do anything to deserve that.
Right.
I looked at I didn't do or say anything that would have caused somebody to treat me so awfully. Or I'm giving all the time. I don't understand. So those first steps of getting out really require engaging with somebody who knows and who can help you know. I had a contact from somebody who, a lot of the women who contact me, by the way, have therapists.
Mm.
And a lot of them are traditional therapists. And this particular person shared with me something the therapist had said when this person, this woman, finally felt safe enough to say, it's not okay in a couples therapy, it's not okay that you're demeaning me, that you're cursing at me, that you're blaming all this on me. And she took her time, like she was feeling safe. The therapist was right there. And the man then, and it could be a woman, but it happened to be a man, then sort of pushed back at her. And the therapist jumped on that train and said, I think you're really going too far with this. And I can't count the number of traditional therapists who have made that error. And it's an error because when we're trained, we are trained that if there is a power in a relationship or in a family, and we're doing counseling with them, we need to align with them so that we can then work them because we're positive manipulators, right? So that we can work them and get back to the solution in the family of healthy communication. Well, that is an error when you're working with narcissistic abuse because the narcissist will take that, run with it, and obliterate the other person. And frankly, pull the wool over your eyes as a therapist.
Mm.
So I think going with a therapist who does this for a living, who really understands the difference, can be the first way through to yourself again.
Yeah.
But as you said before, there's so much shame and embarrassment, especially the more high functioning or high achieving you are, the bigger the spotlight it on you, the bigger the team you lead, the less likely you are going to be to take that step. And, that is why I do what I do for a living. It's why I come on podcasts like this one to say, you don't deserve that. And, everything I do is fully confidential. That's the great thing about being a psychologist. Our rules, laws, and regulations so far exceed what the coaching industry, is has to adhere to. So I
Yeah.
think that'll probably change soon, but that is something that I hold dear. That is something important to me because it does allow me to then work with folks who really feel like they're taking a huge chance, a huge risk to reach out and begin this journey.
Yeah. And you're somebody who's gone through it. So they're not working with a therapist who's just got the certification and the degrees and accolades behind them, that you actually have been through this yourself. So you have a deeper level of understanding. So for women who, even men, that when we have the shame and the embarrassment, it's it just there's a level of comfort and trust there that's different than it would be with somebody that hasn't been there and gone
Yeah.
through it.
I mean,
Um,
it's horrifying to say I'm a frequent flyer. I can now tell you my last flight was 11 years ago. But it is
that plan
difficult,
has
right?
landed.
That
That
plane
plane
is
has landed,
landed
fully
and
landed,
is
and never
in the
taken off
hangar.
again.
So I think it is challenging to be a therapist and to do relationship coaching and to also share with people. I've been married 3 times. I definitely had swallowed a narcissist magnet, and it took really grave circumstances for me to be willing to address what was below the surface so that I could finally ditch that thing.
Yeah.
And 11 years later, almost 12 years later, I'm happy, I'm healthy. I'm not in a space where I would ever accept that behavior.
Right. And I mentioned earlier your glow, you glow. And that's one thing that is very compelling and attractive for narcissists
Yeah.
is the energy, is the glow. So if for those of you listening, I want to bring that up because it's very important because it's exactly what I was told when I met mine. It was like, I'm so attracted to your energy. Your energy is off the chart. It's amazing. And you feel good when somebody says that, well, they're attracted to it because they want to take it,
Sure.
and it's not because they want to be part of it, they want to actually take it from you.
Yeah.
So your glow, if you are an empath, if you are sensitive, if you are an old soul, and you know this about yourself, then you want to be more aware that these are some of the people, not everybody, but you are more likely to attract someone who is a narcissist.
Right.
And narcissist has different levels. We're all narcissistic to some degree. Otherwise, we wouldn't be successful in certain areas. You've got, there's a belief. Maybe I'm saying this wrong, but you have to believe in yourself. People think, oh, they're a narcissist. No, that's not. That's confident. You've done your thing. You're learning, growing, and evolving, and you know you're good at what you do, but you know you don't know everything about everything. But you
Yeah.
treat people with dignity, with respect, and you and you and you're not there to take, right?
Right. And I
Um,
don't think that's narcissistic at all,
no,
actually. I would say self-focused, confident, without being arrogant, that you believe in the mutuality of all relationships, work, personal or otherwise.
yeah, it's
So
healthy. It's healthy.
that is healthy,
Right.
absolutely.
Right. So if you're those type of people, you're more and you're sensitive, empathic, and an old soul, you're more likely to attract those people. So with you glowing, I'm sure you've come across them in your 11 years, and you're now you know the signs, and you can be like, you can be that woman that goes, nope, get out of here.
Yeah, I think doing that soul retrieval and reactivating that part of me that kind of connects me to an eternal power source, if you will, that was really key. That's something that I do with my clients is to help them really reconnect to, the divine or something greater than themselves. They don't have to be religious, but it is a form of spirituality to be able to know I'm not in this alone. I have something around me at all times that's going to help me protect myself. And it also definitely restores the gifts, right? The superpowers and
Right.
X-ray vision for soul suckers is definitely one of those gifts that gets restored during the process. And thank goodness, right?
Yeah.
But even just the ability to boundary so that you can discern, having boundaries that, are not breachable.
Yes.
So, somebody starts to work you and they do it in a delightful way. And you look at it and you say to yourself, like, where have I seen this before? And then you go,
Yeah.
no, thank you.
Yeah,
Don't
and I just want to
permit you
say,
on the
like,
way
the
out.
word's been thrown around a lot, especially in the last so many years. So I bring that up. I brought up what I just shared because I want people to know that if you feel you're in this situation, have a conversation with someone like Dr. Sage, who not only can support you, but also she's been through it to really discern and understand, are you truly dealing with a narcissist, or is there something else? Maybe there's other things, and to get clarity on it, because it makes me nervous when I see a group of women just throwing around the term because they're now broke in a broken up relationship. So I want to make that clear, because we can categorize men, speaking as a woman, in a certain way if we're hurt. And same thing with men, can categorize women if they're hurt. So I just want to make sure that if you feel like you're really, like, you're drained, you feel like you're not trusting yourself anymore, you're wondering, if, and I don't know how to put this into words, Dr. Sage, but if you're feeling like your clarity has been taken from you, you don't know what's right and up or down anymore,
Right.
right?
If you've
You're
got
feeling
brain fog and you're not
you're really
menopausal
lost, right? You
or
feel like,
pregnant, yeah.
yeah, you feel like you see things one way, and then they're like, no, it's completely this, you're wrong, you're crazy. That is time to sit back. You notice that all of your support system that you had is pretty much gone, and you don't know how to get that back. Then reach out, connect with Dr. Sage. So let's go there. Dr. Sage, how can people connect and reach out with you?
Yeah, I've got a few websites. They are being modified to come under one house at the moment, but for now, sagebreslin.com. For women who have experienced this, therosesystem.com is where you learn all about what we have to offer, what we do. We currently have a retreat called Embracing Your Queen. It's
Mhm.
really just how to embrace the part of you that does help you be confident and set boundaries and let go of any of this sort of nonsense that can be served up by soul suckers. That's May 27th to 29th. That is inside therosesystem.com /retreats. So that is coming up. I think the early bird may still be in place. If not, it's not too late to enroll. And I'm across all social media. If you put in Sage Breslin, it should show you something. Or Sage Wisdom Institute, that is our membership site where we have offers like our Daily Pearls membership for just more than $1 a day, to digital intensives, to masterminds, to the Rose System, and many more.
Yeah. Well, make sure that you reach out to her. Go check out the retreat. It's still available and go connect. She's amazing. She will have a conversation with you and you can come in and you can walk away with clarity and feeling confident in yourself or better about yourself and your decisions moving forward. Because I know from my experience is it can be very scary. It's a journey. There's a journey ahead of you and you need a support system that you can trust. And she's definitely that person. And she'll share with you how to bring back your community and how to reconnect with those people as well. Because I know that that can be a scary piece too, because there's a lot of shame and guilt around that as well. And she'll help you navigate that because those people love you. They want to hear from you. But sometimes it could be scary for us to take that step. So reach out, get support from Dr. Sage. And I just want to say to you, Dr. Sage, thank you for being you. And I don't say this lightly. I'm not saying this to just tout you, but this is a journey. And if I hadn't been through it, I wouldn't understand the full complexity of it. And I know other people have been through it worse than I have. And I know that more women are going through it. So I want to say thank you to you for being brave enough and courageous enough to share your journey and your story, to move through it the way you have and then being willing to share how you move through it with others and moving through any guilt or shame you may have had and pushing that aside to support more women. We need people like you out there to let people know that they're not alone because and when you're in this, you can feel highly alone, deeply alone.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well,
So
it's been my pleasure to be on again with you, and I'm looking forward to continued collaborations.
yes, me too. So I have a couple questions for you before we wrap because we're running close to time.
Yeah.
The first question is, it's a fun fact about you, Dr. Sage, that we wouldn't know from, checking out your website or seeing you on social media.
Yeah. Well, it's something that you could probably find if you search for it, but I have flatlined 8 times.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yes. Yes. And not all do I have memory of what exists on the other side, but some. So that's something that, yeah, sort of little known fact. Like I said, if you hunt, you'll find it, but yeah, a bizarre fact at least.
Wow. So there is something.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
At
like
least there is for me.
I've always believed there was, but it's kind of cool to talk to somebody that has actually like
Yeah.
experienced it.
Yeah.
So, amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. My last question for you is if you could have lunch with anyone, deceased or alive, who would it be and why?
I've had some incredible lunches and dinners and hors d'oeuvres with really acclaimed people, now most of whom who have passed. But I would say, honestly, Einstein.
Really?
Yeah, I really feel an affinity for Einstein. I think that really understanding that time is just an organizing principle and that all things are actually happening at the same time, it's why things can morph and shift. And I would love to hear more about that, from the person who started that theory.
Yeah, he's so brilliant and so long. If you know, just amazing the brilliancy then and what we get to learn from him now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being with me here today. Is there anything before I let you go that you want to share or say before that I didn't get to ask you or we didn't talk about?
I just think that I want to re-emphasize something you just shared, that when we go through this process of being with a soul sucker who really derails you, I think absolutely we feel alone. We feel so much shame that it's difficult to share our story with other people,
Mhm.
shame and embarrassment. I just want to emphasize this isn't your fault. If you've kind of checked yourself and you don't find that you've done or said anything malicious or horrible, this is not about you. It's about them and how they work. And realizing that can help you separate yourself from somebody who's manipulating you.
Yeah. And you're pretty awesome. because they wouldn't be coming after you if you
Right.
weren't, right?
You're
Like
high octane
you're,
fuel.
yeah, you're high. Yes, you're high energy, you're high vibe. And that's who they're attracted to.
Yeah,
You are
absolutely.
sensitive. You are a high achiever. You are somebody that they want to be around because they have this high level of version of themselves or opinion of
Right.
themselves. And they want to
Well,
be with somebody who is that too, right?
yes.
So,
And the
so
more they can subordinate you, the
right.
better they feel about themselves. They feel higher. They power over is the term
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
So if we could take away one thing, you're pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome. You're fantabulously awesome. Thank you, Dr. Sage. You're fantabulously awesome. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening to us on the S.H.E podcast. Make sure you go connect with her, go check out the retreat and go sign up and enroll in it. And I can't wait to hear about your experiences. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the S.H.E podcast. In the meantime, be empowered to be seen and heard.